NUZI tablets. What are the NUZI tablets? And NUZI tablets are just fragments of pottery they found in modern-day northern Iraq, near very close to Haran. Why Haran? Remember Haran? Abraham moved from Ur of the Chaldees to Haran, so he lived there for a few years. And the NUZI tablets are found in a community near there. And this community consists of Hurrians. And it's just shards of pottery, a whole bunch of them. Some reports say 6,500, another 7,000. And there is writing on it. And from the writings, they could piece together what this community was all about. And when we read the Genesis of Abraham and his story, and you find from here the NUZI tablets, the similarity between what was said in Genesis and the life of the from the NUZI tablets. Here we go. It's like 1450 to 1350 BC near Kirkuk, Iraq, discovered in just after the First World War. 6,500 cuneiform texts and fragments, baked clay, written in the Akkadian language. Text describes customs of the people in NUZI, customs that are very similar to the patriarchs of Israel. I'm going to start a series called Biblical Archaeology Tuesday, and today I'm going to do NUZI tablets. When we read what was written in the NUZI text, we are struck with the similarity to the Genesis account. I first learned about the NUZI tablets from William Campbell, who wrote a criticism of Wellhausen's documentary hypothesis, JAPD, and shot it down. The documentary hypothesis, JAPD, postulates that the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, could not have been written by Moses because writing was not invented yet, which is really hogwash, because from archaeology we know there was writing way back. Archaeology has confirmed the findings of the Hammurabi Code. The NUZI tablets really buried that premise put up by the documentary hypothesis that there was no writing till 1,000 years later. What is most striking is what was in the NUZI tablets. A few regulations and laws regarding practices in the community. First, regarding adoption. Dozens of adoption tablets which demonstrates a common practice among the dwellers in Mesopotamia. Genesis 15 verse 2 says, Abraham asked God, what good was it, God's blessings to him? Being childless, amidst an adopted person, a stranger will inherit. In Abraham's case, it's recorded in Genesis, Eliezer of Damascus. It says a slave person. And also many times we hear in the Genesis account of sister, when Abraham tried to pimp out his wife Sarah twice. He said, she's my sister, first before Pharaoh, the second before Abimelech. Where is this sisterhood comes from? So, like I said, twice in the Genesis account, Genesis 12, 11 to 20, Genesis 20, 1 to 16, Abraham told first Pharaoh and then Abimelech that Sarah was his sister. Where did this concept come from? And even Isaac, Genesis 26 verses 6 to 16, used the same excuse. Oh, she's my sister, thinking that they will be spared if the stranger finds out that he's not the husband. Otherwise they will kill the husband and get the wife, because the wife is so beautiful. So they said, nah, she's a sister. That's common practice in those days, as recorded in the NUZI tablets. So, like I said, for both father and son pimped their wives out. Among the NUZI tablets, there were many legal contracts where women would be adopted into a family as a sister. And also regarding slave wife, children in the case of childless couples, what happens. And we know that Hagar was used by Abraham and Sarah to bear a son, a kind of surrogacy. Again, the NUZI documents show that what occurred was exactly in line with the customs of Haran. If a wife cannot bear a son, a slave wife would be used. In Genesis 29, we read of Laban giving first his eldest daughter in marriage to Jacob. Jacob had expected to marry Rachel, the younger daughter. So, because Rachel was so beautiful, so Laban said, okay, work for me for 7 years. And he did. And on the wedding night, he found out that he was married to Leah, not Rachel. So Laban said, it is not our custom to marry off a younger daughter ahead of the firstborn. Work for me another 7 years and you will get Rachel, which he did. And it is also customary for the father to give his daughters, his grown-up daughters, maids, personal maids. And it's recorded in that Genesis account. To Leah, Laban gave Zilpah, and to Rachel, Bilhah. And these two names play an important part in the life of the later part of Jacob, because the two women were fighting with each other regarding childbearing. Whoever has the most children for the husband wins. So what do? They use their maids. Okay, so it's totally in line with what goes on there in that community, as documented by the NUZI tablets. That's why the NUZI tablets is fascinating. I can imagine whoever found them and whoever later transcribed them would be so excited. And then we continue to read in Genesis 31 regarding the household gods. What are household gods? Teraphims. Every house has a household god, albeit a little small figurine made of gold. And it signifies that you are head of household. These belongs to you if you have your teraphim there. And in the case of death, you will hand over your teraphim to the heir. So whoever holds that teraphim owns the property. So that's why it's so significant regarding this Genesis account. So in Genesis 31, Jacob now decided to leave Laban and go home, bringing his wives, his maids, children, all his accumulated livestock. You won't believe his riches. So he was slowly walking. Well, they have to walk home. And here we read of Laban, the uncle, chasing him. Took him 3 days to chase up with that group. Why? Somebody took his teraphim, his household god. And he thought maybe he suspected Jacob and his group took it. So he went, did you take it? Jacob said, no. So he searched the whole camp, but couldn't find it. And the Bible records that Rachel was sitting on it. It's a little small figurine. Laban wants it back. He doesn't want Jacob to come back later and say, hey, guess what, guys? I have your teraphim, your father's teraphim. Therefore, that property is now mine. Laban wants to preserve his property for his other sons, his other children. So you can't walk away with his household god, his teraphim. And Rachel was sitting on it, and the father said, move, let me search. She said, no, I'm having a problem, maybe a monthly menses or something. So she didn't move, she sat on it, and Laban couldn't find it. And what does he do? That wasn't the end of it. Not that he was going to be satisfied. No, didn't take it. No, what am I going to do, right? So he said to Jacob, here, let's make an agreement with each other. This is the line. I will not cross over to hurt you. You will not come over to hurt me. Well, that's the next best thing. So Jacob could come back later to claim his property. So Jacob agreed. So we read of that Genesis 31:52. Isn't it fascinating that they would act out these laws, these things that they know that this is part of their community, and we read of it in the Bible, and the NUZI tablets confirm that these things go on. So Genesis 31:52, I will not cross this line to harm you. You will not cross this line to harm me. And we can continue the story. Genesis 35:2-4. Later on, we read of Jacob demanding that any strange gods in the hands of his people be buried. So later on, he abolished this principle of keeping household gods, teraphims. These are strange gods. You cannot compete with Elohim. So from biblical archaeology, and especially from the NUZI tablets, the Bible comes alive in ways that still astound us. It's fascinating. And not just fascinating, so anybody's hypothesis on something else, documentary hypothesis, has been debunked and shut down so many times, but people still hang on to it. So knowing this, we can argue, and not just that, it confirms in our mind that Jesus said, Moses gave you the Torah. Well, if JAPD was correct, surely maybe Jesus didn't get the memo. Moses did write the Torah. Maybe he had help, but when we see of all these parallels, we shouldn't be afraid. With each archaeological find, it just confirms the Bible more and more. And I will continue more. This is going to be Biblical Archaeology Tuesday. Stay tuned.